Good day, everyone. My name is Ramisa Mashumba, and I'm the Africa lead for the Global Farmer Network. I would like to welcome you all to today's exciting webinar on Harvesting Hope, Unlocking the Power of Seed Technology in Africa. Before we start, I would like to tell you a little bit about the Global Farmer Network. The Global Farmer Network was established in the year 2000 by farmers with a focus to connect, empower, and mobilize farmers worldwide. Our membership is formed by 260 individual farmers, these are both male and female, from 65 countries, which farm of different types and different sizes. Our mission is to amplify the voices in promoting trade, technology, sustainable farming, economic growth, and food security. We believe in the power of knowledge transfer, which is why we created this webinar series and offer multiple approaches that focus on action, collaboration, and results that showcase agriculture as part of the solution to the main challenges faced by humanity. We invite you to connect with us and follow our social media handles. Today's speakers are coming from various walks of life, and I would like to welcome you all to our first speaker who's coming on stage. His name is Nasib. Nasib is the manager of Global Smallholder Partnership of Bayer, leading smallholder engagement and activation in Africa and Southeast Asia. Prior to joining Bayer, Nasib's diverse and multidisciplinary experience includes working on the water efficiency maize for Africa project in Uganda, academic institutes such as Makerere University, Kampala, Cornell University in the USA, and North Carolina State University. He holds a doctorate in agriculture extension and education from North Carolina State University. Would like to welcome you on the stage, Nasib. It's such a pleasure to have you with us here, and I'm so excited to hear as you explain to us, your vast knowledge that you've had and such wealth of wisdom that you carry, and on what biotech looks like in Africa right now. So welcome, Nasib.
Thank you, Ramiso, for your sweet and kind introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Nasib, and I'm happy to be here. It's a great honor to be talking about biotech and how it can be a vital tool for farmers to deal with the challenges they have on their farms. And before I delve into my presentation today, I'd like to start with a brief personal story. I grew up in central Uganda, a small town called Mukono, and food and farming has always been a huge part of me. I grew up in a restaurant, and I spent a lot of time helping my mom with, of course, the easy children's stuff like serving and cleaning dishes. But I also spent a huge amount of my time on my smallholder, on my grandmother's farm, who was a smallholder farmer. And as a kid, I saw the struggles that farmers go through, such as, drought, weeds, pests and diseases. And this inspired me later to, choose a career in agriculture as a way of sort of helping, my grandmother, but also communities that smallholder farmers live in to have access to improved farming technologies. So I'm very excited to be here, and I would ask my presentation to go up. Next slide, please. Yeah, so for today, I'll take you through what's biotech, what benefits does it present to farmers, both small and large scale, and I'll end with some major key takeaways on biotech. Next slide, please. Next one. So biotech, in simple terms, it's one of those tools that are not different from what our ancestors have been doing for more than 100 years. So it's an extension of the traditional plant breeding techniques. And the only difference is that biotech is more precise in doing what our ancestors have been doing and what nature has been doing for so many years. So we all know that plants, just like us, have life. And one of the basic forms of life is, the genes. And these genes are responsible for characteristics like yield, characteristics like taste, characteristics like color. And so in traditional plant breeding, essentially when one parent of a plant and another get to be crossed, you will have many characteristics that will be crossed. And some of these may be good. It could be like, one parent was maybe good with being tolerant to drought, and another parent maybe is good with high yielding. And so when you cross those two parents, you may get both of those, drought tolerance and high yielding. But you may also get so many other characteristics that come from these parents. And some of these may be desirable and some may not. So what plant biotechnology helps is to precisely introduce only the characteristics that you want to see in a crop. And this could be that you're interested in the crop to be tolerant to drought. And so what you do as a breeder is to only introduce that trait in the parents, and subsequently the offsprings or the seeds that come out of that crossing will have only that characteristics and nothing else that's undesired. So in short, plant biotech is an extension of already what has been happening with breeding. And the only difference is its precision to introduce only the traits or characteristics that you desire to see in a seed or a crop. Next slide, please. So what's the status of biotech right now in Africa? As you see on the map, most countries in Africa are poised to for release of biotech crops, and specifically maize is what we intend to introduce as Bayer to farmers. But only South Africa right now is the country in Africa which has commercial approval for production of GMOs. Other countries are still working on their regulatory landscape to allow for uptake of biotech. And this is where the farmer's voice is key for acceptance, because part of the challenges to commercialization of biotech has been the complex regulatory processes in different African countries, as well as the political will being not in favor of this technology. But there's progress right now, and Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Malawi are on the blink of joining South Africa. And this will be a great opportunity for farmers to plant biotech crops that would be helpful for their farming situation. Next slide, please. So at Bayer, we strive to keep the farm at the center. And it's not that we develop crops for the fun of just developing them, but to really address the critical needs that farmers are facing. And the lady you see in that picture, we call her Mama Taylor. She grows maize. And when you look at the maize, which is biotech, it's one she would like to grow because it's apparently clear that it's resistant to insects, but it can also withstand long drought periods. And as Bayer, we're champions in maize seed development, and our maize portfolio in biotech is spread across different traits, ranging from herbicide tolerance, insect resistance, especially like fall armyworm, which is a menace to many crops, to maize crops in sub-Saharan Africa, And also drought tolerance is one of those traits we intend to introduce in maize cropping systems. Next slide, please. So what are some of the key facts on biotech or GMOs? After, giving you a landscape of, what we are working on as farmers, it's important to know that GM crops are safe to start with, because this is one of the concerns that comes up very often. And all the scientific bodies world over have agreed that these crops are actually safer. But also GMO crops improve productivity and sustainability. As we've seen from the Taylor maize, it's bred or developed to have traits of insect resistance and drought tolerance. And what this means is that it helps any farmer who is growing these crops to at least not worry about yield loss that is related to insects eating the plant, but also it prevents the farmers from buying unnecessary pesticides to spray on the crop, since the crop already comes when it's developed to be resistant to insects. Most importantly, this technology benefits both small and large farms. And for smallholder farmers, it's a really great technology in helping them have, that assurance that their crop yield will not be affected by circumstances like drought and diseases and pests. Next slide, please. So as I wrap up my brief presentation, one of the key takeaways I would like you to go with is that innovations in plant breeding and plant science have resulted in better choices and gives, farmers a wide range of tools to choose from to do their farming. And biotech is one of those tools that is really critical for farmers to deal with challenges relating to pests, drought, and yield problems. And most importantly, genetically modified crops allow farmers to have more choice and flexibility in identifying which varieties can thrive on their farms. But also, it's not only beneficial to farmers, consumers as well would have the opportunity to have access to a variety and supply of foods that they want. And this creates a very food secure world, both for farmers and consumers, because of this great technology that allows for yields and habits to be protected because of the technology. So thank you so much. I really welcome, I really enjoyed giving this talk, and would welcome any comments and questions on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nasib. As a farmer myself, we don't really get to understand where seed comes from. We just know that we want our seed when it's time for us to plant. We want good quality seed. It should have everything, like we want it to be drought resistant. So here we are as farmers, telling you as people who work in seed that it's very important for us to have seed, and especially now with the droughts we're facing, just the understanding that seeds need to be drought resistant. They really need to adhere to the changes of the climate. So thank you so much, Nasib. So I'll call you back on stage after we listen to the next two panelists who are going to be sharing their story. So thank you so much for that presentation. So much to learn from that. So next, coming up is Stella Thomas. So Stella Thomas is a farmer. She's an established female farmer who owns a seed company in Nigeria. She grows maize, sorghum, rice, and vegetable seeds. And she works with 3,000 farmers and has cultivating over 6,000 hectares. So, welcome, Stella, onto the stage. It's so exciting to listen to a female farmer from Nigeria who's doing amazing things, working with so many farmers, as well as owning your own seed house. So, I'm excited to hear your personal story and what motivated you to start the business you're doing today.
Thank you so much for myself. I'm so glad to be here. And thank you, everyone. It's so good to see you. Okay, so like I was introduced, I'm Stella Thomas. I run a seed company that is called Techni Seeds Limited. We're based in Kano. It's actually the first female owned seed company in Nigeria. What motivated me, just like Romeso asked, growing up, um, I watched my mom always use our backyard to grow a lot of things. Coming from the area where she was born from Enugu State, but I have always lived in the north, and that's where I was born. I was born in Kano State, and it was quite intriguing to see that we could get our fresh corn from the backyard, we could get our pepper, we could get our tomatoes, several things. And as a young person, I was like, how could I make this better? And what can I do to actually create an impact? And I want to let you know that I had my first degree in agriculture, my second degree, my third degree, and all was born out of passion to ensure that we'll have food security in our nations. And that's what birthed the seed company and the seed industry. Because after my university, I was privileged to also serve in a company that was involved in seed production, and that was my first passion. Knowing that these things I used to see in the book, we could actually practice them, because while we were in school we're taught biotechnology and hybrid and all that, and it's increased my passion, and I decided that as a woman I'm going to be the first woman to start up a seed company. And the experience has been so intriguing. It's been amazing, because even in recent time we now have a lot of women farmers. I'm intentional about the women. Being a woman, we have a lot of women farmers in our outgrower scheme. And there's no farming without seed, because everything starts from seed, and not just seeds. Just like Romaiso said, we want to have seeds that can stand the test of time. We want to have seeds that are drought tolerant, climate smart seeds. We want to have seeds that are disease free. And that's why I love the biotechnology, because it keeps improving. These are things that we've been doing, but the population is growing. For example, in Africa, in 2050, we're going to be about 2.5 billion, and everyone needs food. Um, People can do without health, medicine, but with good food, you can be healthy. And there's so many other things that people can tolerate. But when a man does not have food in the stomach, there's a lot of trouble. And that's the essence of seed. So agriculture actually starts from seed. Whatever type of agriculture you want to do, is it the maize, is it the rice, is it the sorghum, it starts from the seed. And it also helps you to know what you want, because from the seed you can determine what type of material do I want to produce, what's my end produce. For example, for I'll use maize. Sometimes maize are produced for different purposes. Some just want to produce to eat the cobs, some want it for the processing for flour, some even want it for maybe just the shape, and different aspects. So the seed helps you determine what type of production you are supposed to be doing at any point in time. And that's why it's important you go to reputable seed companies as a farmer to be told what type of seed It's not every seed that grows everywhere. Now we're talking about climate smart seeds, we're talking about drought. If you do not have this information, access to technology, access to seed technology is very, very important. It helps you determine your productivity, your yield, what is expected of you. So if you look at the legumes, sometimes you can grow for fodder, different things. So there are different aspects of the seed, and we have to be intentional about it in farming. Don't just throw in anything in the soil and believe that when you add your fertilizer and other things, it would happen. You have to get it right with the seed, the right seed. And even the yields is determined by the seed. When you have the right seed, you have the right inputs, and with the good agronomic practices, you will get the right yield for um, whatever you're planting for. So generally, the seed business is a very interesting one. Yes, can be challenging. For us, we use both direct production and outgrower scheme. So for the direct production, we produce our foundation seeds when we get the breeder seeds from the national institutes in Nigeria. The national institutes, they have the mandate for producing breeder seeds, and then we take it up from there. So just like was just discussed, the telemate has just been released in Nigeria, and a lot of farmers are excited. And we've been following through the process of the release. So now we've been given the privilege to start trying them out at seed companies and also giving it out to our farmers. We believe that it will bring good yield and better um, innovations with the farmers on what they require in their seed. So I want to thank every one of you for listening. But if you don't remember anything I said, remember that seed is important in any agricultural product you want to venture into. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Stella. I was so engaged in your conversation. And I liked how you said it's important for us to be intentional about farming. And it always begins with the seed. The seed you put in the ground will determine what you harvest. So that's very important to understand and learn as farmers, because we can't expect a certain harvest when we don't have good seed and good quality seed. And here in Africa, access to seed is actually a challenge. So thank you so much. We'll call you back after we listen to the next video that's coming up. And then we can have a conversation and ask you questions that our audience have been dying to ask you, and to really find out more about your seed business. So thank you so much, and I really enjoyed the conversation with you. So coming up next, we're going to watch a video of a farmer who's based in South Africa. His name is Motlatsi Musi. He started his career as a permanent laborer on a large scale farm in South Africa. And the wealth of experience that he got from that farm led him to then obtaining his own farm during the independence of South Africa. He currently grows GE maize and soya, and he also rears pigs, cattle. So everyone, listen up to hear the story of Motlasi.
Hello, my name is Motlatsi Musi. I'm a farmer since 1968, working as a farmhand. And then I got land during the New South Africa during 2003. And I decided to help other farmers. As you may know, that South Africa is being redistributed, particularly in the agricultural sector. where some of the farmers came back as owners now and came back with an old technology, very old technology, because some of them were doing by planting by hooves and using hands, only hands, and others using animal-driven machinery. Now I decided later to come in with my tractors and help them, show them even how far the white people have gone using mechanization and also the GM technology. The reason I decided to help them come more onto the GM technology, there are many pests. There are many pests into agriculture. We're having armyworm and look here is tassel smart. I don't know if GM technology can knock it out, but things like this needs people to adapt to modern technologies. So I decided to show the farmers here, we're doing about 500 hectares. I decided to show them what I'm doing since 2006. I've been doing GM grains, planting BT maize, and later on BR. It's pest resistant and also herbicide tolerant. So it makes it very easy. Using that technology, I managed to send my children to school. Now, helping these other farmers, we had a problem here with an armyworm. And then I talked to scientists from Potchefstroom who modified maize for pest resistance and also drought tolerant. The seed was called, still carrying the name Taylor or Wormer seed. Now, with the Wormer seed, the pest is no longer troubling us because the seed is pest resistant. Why I decided more to teach the people to go for that technology, one area, the most important one, is that yes, the world moved forward with climate change. We're seeing many differences. We're having like that armyworm, which I only saw once in my lifetime, but it didn't have an effect on my fields because I had my BT maize planted. But others without one got into trouble with the pest damaging their crop. Now I would love to encourage more people to come into this technology because really it's not labor intensive. You plant your BR maize, you come in with your herbicide and look like, for instance, here this seed looks yellowish. I still need to teach these people that this is a symptom. It's not drought, it's not because of drought, but it tells me that the maize needs phosphorus, for instance. And this one with Tassel Smart, they need not save the seed. If you save the seed, you're storing the very Tassel Smart. If you replant, that powdery form will be on the seed you saved. So you'll never knock this pest out. That's another reason why I will continue teaching the subsistent farmers and the newcomers in the field. Some are getting land more than 100 hectares because they passed probation, but they do not know about these technologies. Now you take over from a white commercial farmer who is hands-on this technology since 1997. You come in during this millennium and you want to do like your grandparents used to do, save seed and replant. That's the main reason I am pro GM technology, because it knocks out all those problems. You buy the seed with a tool in it. Mainly, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. And farming is not a subsistent occupation. You need to grow. It is a sustainable profession. So I always encourage people to come on board and let's move South Africa forward together. We can win. And yes, The SADC is also came in, and there are a few countries in the SADC that are doing BT crops. Like in Nigeria, they're having BT cowpea and I think cassava as well. Yes, in short, that's me. Thank you.
Watching the video of Mutulasi, it really made me feel like I farm in Zimbabwe. I really felt like I was in my field because we've got very similar conditions. And when he mentioned the four armyworm in Zimbabwe, many of us can really share so many stories. I remember the first time when we experienced full armyworm, and some people were saying, use the dishwasher soap that you have in your kitchen and apply it. But imagine like the cost, and it didn't even work. Yet there's actually technology out there. So that's the beauty of this webinar, where we get to talk to various people using different technologies and really ask questions as farmers in terms of what is this technology. So I'd like to welcome onto the stage Stella and Nasib, who have given amazing presentations today and really educated a lot of us on some aspects that we were, wondering in our minds as farmers on what this technology is. So I'll kick off with you, Nasib, because a question came. Someone asked from our viewers that, does biotech affect the nutritional value of the seed, the crops? Maybe you can explain a little bit more to us viewers on what on this comment and what biotech is actually helping farmers to achieve.
Great question, and to answer it is biotech is a tool to start with, and it's a tool that can be used to improve crops. And this improvement could mean adding nutritional value to the crop. The improvement could be introducing drought tolerance to the crop. The improvement could mean introducing insect resistance to the plant. So to answer the question, unless the purpose for which the seed is being developed is to have a certain nutritional component, it will never change. If, like, for example, it's being bred for drought tolerance or yields. So put simply, the nutritional qualities of the seed, maize will remain nutritionally the same, but only differ in its resistance to drought or insects, if that was the main reason for which it was developed. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, that answers the question. So in terms of so we have this technology that you're developing. In terms of access in Africa, how are you seeing the response? As in, for me as a farmer, I think most farmers here would agree that we need technology, seed everywhere across. How are you seeing the response in terms of the farmers that you're working with that are currently using this technology?
Is that for me? Or Stella?
Yes, apologies. No, that's for you. Apologies, there must have been like a network glitch. So I was just asking, in terms of maybe you can share some stories of other people who are using. We saw a video, fantastic testimony of how this technology has helped him take his children to school. And I was also looking at his crops; they didn't have any armyworm damage. That's really but can you also share a story that you know of farmers that are also using the technology and what sort of benefits they're seeing in terms of protecting from fall armyworm and drought resistant, just for our viewers to also understand the impact that access to BT can have on their farming projects.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. So one of the stories, actually, I shared it in the presentation of Mama Taylor. You could see in her garden, the joy of having that yield where, you have your maize not affected by insects. It's still able to thrive, long drought conditions. And everywhere I've gone in Africa, be it from Malawi or Kenya or even Uganda, my home country, farmers are always looking for solutions that are going to help them go about their farming without pain. And in terms of perception of biotech, I can tell you how much every farmer I meet is like, we hear about this technology which can help with problems like fall armyworm. When are you giving it to us on the farms? So the appetite for these technologies is there across all smallholder segments. And the only roadblock right now are the regulatory hurdles in some of these countries, like Kenya, for example, right now, much as the government had approved commercialization of biotech, activists against GMOs went to court. So if these hurdles get out of the way of farmers, they are ready to jump on to this technology because they've seen other farmers in the rest of the world enjoying the benefits that come with having these crops on their farm.
You're absolutely right, Nasib. And we really need to have more stories of farmer to farmer sharing experiences and telling us their stories on how are they navigating these challenges of climate change. In the chat, where one farmer just wrote to say that they were in their field, but they decided to attend this webinar. They're experiencing unprecedented heat waves and rain, and now they're torn between so many extremes, and climate change is real. I think every farmer here can really share that it is real and that they need resilient crops using GM seeds. So there are so many people who agree that we are, as farmers, we know we need to produce for the markets, and yet sometimes our yields are not matching because we don't have access. So thank you for that. And Stella, your mic is muted.
Turn now.
So Stella, so in terms of in Nigeria, what would you say in access to seed looks like currently? Are people able to access good quality seed, or is there still a huge challenge?
Okay, it's still a huge challenge because so many farmers still do not know the importance of using seed, and that has to do with a lot of policy somersaults, and then also from us, the seed companies, being able to do, for example, having new technologies, that can meet up with maybe the challenges, Um, we just said here now that farmers are always looking for solutions, to solve whatever needs that they have concerning their farm. So there's still a gap, even though it's better than it used to be. So, for example, Technicis started in 2011. As compared to then and now, it's much, much better. But when you now look at the number of farmers that we have in Nigeria as compared to the volume of seeds that is being utilized, it will not tell you that there's still a huge gap. So there still has to be a lot of sensitization, a lot of training, a lot of um, letting the farmers know quality seeds is important for them to grow, have a good harvest.
Thank you, Stella. So in terms of when you say that the access to seed is not very good in Nigeria, are people mainly using recycled seed, or are they buying not good quality seeds? What do you think the main challenges are, and what would you say to the
Both.
viewers who are here?
Both. I would say both. A lot of
Yes.
people still use, because for us as seed company, we've done a lot of assessments, and we'll find out that our major competitors right now is still the recycled seed. So that's to let you know that awareness. And apart from that, we always say that the farmers here are resource poor, even though we're doing our best to change that narrative, to let them know that it's important that they invest in seeds. But because they see that it has an alternative, they will still prefer to maybe use the recycled seed and then do every other thing they think they don't have an alternative for, like the fertilizer. And then at the end, their productivity is not as much as it is. But I also want to be sincere. As seed companies, it's important for us to always be innovative and bringing up more high yielding seeds that when they compare to what they are using, they will always come back to us. So it's both the recycled seed and still a lot of work to be done in the seed industry in Nigeria.
Thank you for that. That's very interesting, actually, because seed is actually the cheapest, before fertilizers. So we always say here in Zimbabwe that grow what you can. If you can only make a quarter, better get the quality products on a small piece of land. But then, a lot of our forefathers used to believe in growing large pieces of land and then compromising on inputs. But then it's always about sharing these stories, Stella, like, being able to share your personal story and showing what your output is. Then people can really understand that, someone used this amount, which is the same amount you used on a big piece of land, but they were able to actually achieve more. That, really convinced the farmers that it is important for you to access the correct that you need instead of trying to go large and look good and not really achieve those. So thank you so much. Really sharing your personal story and, encouraging lots of women out there that, as a woman yourself, you are running your own business and you're actually motivating other people. And the fact that you're working with a lot of thousands of farmers, it really shows that you're out there really changing the narrative and teaching people the importance of technology. So Nasib, we have some questions coming here. So this question is coming from a livestock farmer. And they say that, does the change in weather also affect the seed or resilience to the seed you're using? So maybe saying that does this affect the GM, the biotech seed if the weather changes?
Good question. So does weather change the resilience of the seed? Well, I would say it depends on the type of weather. Definitely, crops, if it's not severe weather, like maybe floods or prolonged drought, the seed will not be affected. So the seeds that are bred for drought tolerance, for example, it's not that they can't die from drought, but they are more resilient to withstand longer periods of drought compared to their counterparts that would be conventional. So if it's really weather that's within the normal, long drought, but with some bits of, rainfall or irrigation, the GM seed will be more resilient compared to conventional seed varieties if that GM seed is bred or developed for drought tolerance.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question again coming to your end is, can you reproduce biotech seeds? Or do you need to buy new seeds each time? Maybe you can explain.
Beautiful question. So one of the myths out there is that GMO crops or biotech seeds cannot be replanted or reproduced. That is not true. Biotech seeds, GMOs, can be replanted. What people confuse oftentimes is how much you get when you replant. And the science is clear that most of the biotech crops are developed through using hybrids. And the hybrid technology works in a way that once you buy the crops, if you want to enjoy that harvest you got with the hybrids, you need to get to plant those hybrids, when they're quite new, and the yield will be consistent. But when you choose to replant the hybrids, you'll still get yields, but they will not be at the same yield level as when they were in pure state. I hope that answers the question.
No, that answers the question. And it's really a question that people ask all the time. And it's across board, like you said, like even with the different seed varieties we plant here in Zimbabwe, everyone knows that if you store your grain and you plant it again, even if there was some diseases, you carry them on. It's always best to get the best quality seed. So that thank you so much for answering that question. And another question is on does GM technology incorporate into open pollinated varieties or hybrids?
Good question. So it depends on the objectives of one who is doing the breeding. Yes, as I said, this is a tool. It can be used in so many ways, and it can be introduced in open pollinated varieties or hybrid. But because hybrids already have been pre-selected to have certain characteristics that are great, most breeders work with hybrids when developing biotech crops. But the tool can be used no matter which variety you're dealing with or plant species.
Okay. Seems like our viewers are very technical, asking all the questions. So, in terms of like we spoke a lot about these misconceptions around seed. So, what is your advice that you give to the viewers in terms of all these misconceptions? Because the thing about as a farmer, many of the times you don't have a place where we can find good technology. That's why we exist as the Global Farmer Network, to be able to represent as farmers and share information with other farmers on what my experience is in Zimbabwe. I can listen to another farmer in America and I hear that they use some of these technologies that we don't have. What do you think is this misconception that's happening in terms of access to seed? And where do you think it's forming from? I know this is a bit tough. Maybe I'll give Stella to as a farmer herself and what you're seeing in Nigeria. What is causing this misconception, and what can we do as farmers ourselves to really educate people on the access to the correct things? Because at the end of the day, as a farmer myself, I want to be able to be sustainable, feed my children, take my children to school, and being able to still enjoy this career. What are misconceptions and what's causing them, and what would you speak and give advice to other fellow viewers who are listening today?
Okay, yeah. So, what is causing the misinformations a lot of time or conception? It's knowledge gap. Even me as a farmer, I would tell you the reality. Until recently, I used to think that GM seed can never be replanted, and I had challenges with that. But I asked the questions and I was given clarity. And even now I am planting. And I know, being a seed company, I already know that even with hybrids that we produce, if you reproduce or replant the hybrids, you don't get the same yield. So we always advise farmers, for you to get good yield, always come back to get your seeds. And so, what we should do is to keep pushing the right narratives there, training, participatory approaches. For example, I had a project that I had to work with some women in Niger State where we had to move their soybean production from 1 ton to 2 tons. And then we also had to move their maize production from 2 tons to about 4 tons. We had to do a lot of participatory approaches. We had to use a lot of small parts. I know for the GM material, it might be a little bit more expensive than maybe the hybrids and the OPVs based on the technology involved. But a lot of extension, demonstration activities, a lot of participatory approaches, a lot of information sharing, just like Global Farmers Network is doing today. I believe that as many that listens and hear all this information today, if they had a particular conception or a myth, I'm sure it will be guided rightly. So we just have to keep talking to ensure that the right narrative is there for the farmers. And once they get it and they try it out, because that's one thing about farmers, they might have a conception for a very long time, but once they have tried it and it worked for them, anybody can say whatever they want to say. Just like the video we watched, they'll keep doing what they are doing. So it's just a matter of time. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And Nasib, before you give us your closing remarks, what would you say the future of seed looks like in Africa?
Future of seed, great question. I'm not a prophet, but the future of seed looks great. If you know quick facts about Africa, by 2050, it's going to have a quarter of the world's population. So this is about approximately 2.5 billion. So considering that challenge of population growth, you definitely need innovative ways to feed a growing population. And seed plays definitely a critical role in feeding a growing population, and doesn't have to just be, normal seed. This needs to be seeds that can thrive challenges of our time today, such as declining soil fertility, changing climate. And so the future of the seed really looks great, but it's also up for that, challenge of how it would be able to thrive amidst all these challenges. That's why we need very robust seed systems in Africa to prepare for, the growing population and feeding it sustainably.
So there is hope because, as you share on the fear of the climate change and everything, there is hope out there because there are technology companies that we hope are working tirelessly to provide solutions for us so that we're able to still continue farming even as the climate becomes more difficult. So we're now coming to the close. So Stella, I will just ask you to share some closing remarks. And then after that, Nasib, you can also share your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. In closing, I would just like to say to farmers here or viewers, one of the rights that we have as individuals or humans is the right of choice. And you always have to know what you want and where you're going to and the targets you want to achieve. So, as a farmer, it's important you know the right to good seed, what to choose when opportunities are presented before you. Why are you producing? What do you want to achieve by that reason? And just like Nasib said, the population is growing, so we have to be innovative. You can't keep doing, in fact, look at it everywhere. You can't keep doing the same thing you were doing before and expect a different result. So if you want to have good results, you have to change what you're doing. So generally, the seed system, it's very, very important for every farmer to keep. There's always new innovations coming up. And I want to encourage us, embrace technology. Technology is important for us in Africa. It will help us to, achieve our set goals. So there is hope for Africa. We can feed ourselves and even feed our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Nasib, over to you.
Yeah, I would like to actually pick on from Stella's last, statement of this hope for Africa, and we can feed Africa. We can feed ourselves as Africans, and biotech and GMOs play a critical role in feeding our growing population, and farmers need access to this technology because it can tremendously help them go about so many of the challenges that they are facing. And most importantly, it's critical to understand that biotech is a tool in the basket of options that farmers can have. And it's only fair for them to be given access to these tools, empower them to use the tools, and this will help with challenges such as food security, income, and many others that farmers face. So I really my call to action, if I were to ask, is to really give farmers access to biotech and help them, work with these tools in ways that can sustainably feed not only the farmers but their communities as well.
Thank you very much. I feel very encouraged just listening to you, amazing, fantastic people sharing with us your personal stories, as well as that there is hope, there is technology out there, and actually giving us the accurate information that, like many times you don't know where to find it. So we really appreciate your time and all that you have shared, and Stella, for being such a role model to so many women out there, and sharing your personal journey of how you started, and keep on empowering and impacting the lives of many other farmers in Nigeria. And we hope to hear even greater stories of how other people are now able to use technology, and that for sure Africa will be able to not only feed itself but feed the whole world. So we are depending on people like you, who are our ambassadors, to carry the flag. So thank you so much. And Nasib, all these questions that have been coming through, you're able to answer them and really educate us on some of the topics that we have amongst ourselves as farmers, and we actually don't know who to consult. So having you here has been fantastic. And as a fellow African from Uganda, just sharing your personal journey with us, we really appreciate your time. We still have a few other questions that have been in the chat, so we hope that you'll be able to also view this after and just help answer some of those questions. So to our viewers, even those ones who are going to watch after this recording, no worries, you keep on asking your questions. The Global Farmer Network is here to support you and answer all the questions that you have, so that as African farmers and other farmers, I understand not only African farmers but other farmers who are also part of this platform can also benefit. So thank you so much for today, and I would like to thank all our viewers for attending this webinar on harvesting hope. Unlocking the power of seed technology in Africa. Please keep on following our social media handles. We have other webinars that will be coming up that we will be sharing. And I do appreciate that there's still a lot of questions that are coming, and we will be following up on those questions and supporting you. And again, thank you again to everybody who has helped this webinar to be a success, and for bringing that hope that we need, especially in times like this, when we are faced with climate change and all the different things that we are told every day that may make farming difficult. But together, as farmers, we can hold hands and share knowledge and information, so that we can keep on encouraging each other and find the best solutions. So again, thank you everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Ramiso. This was great. And thank you, our viewers.
Thank you so much, Nasir. Thank you, Romeso. Thank you, everyone. And our viewers, we're glad to have you. Thank you.